Just say Charles.
Just Charles.
Well, as we usually start with a or a calm moment, a different moment, I thought to invite you in a different kind of an exercise for this afternoon to sing together 5 minutes a song of Rejoice. So may I invite you to stand up. Stand clearly, a bit in balance, a bit relaxed. Feel where your breath is going. This is Psalm 100 or 99, it depends on your Bible. Jubilate omnis terra servite Domino in laetitia. Serve the Lord in joy, joyfully. Jubilate, rejoice, all the earth, omnis terra. And there is a very easy but also very nice way to make this text our own on music. And we will start with the second line. Servite Domino. You can repeat. Servite Domino. We sing it twice. Servite Domino, servite Domino. So we repeat that twice, and the rhythm is like that. Ta-da-dum, pa-da-dum, pom pom pom, pa-da-dum. Shall we try it together? Servite Domino, servite Domino. And then it goes on. In laetitia, in laetitia. And we sing that twice as well. So it is, let's start with servite. Servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in laetitia. So there are a few details. We don't stop after Domino. We could simply go on. It is an ongoing service, you could say. Servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in laetitia. When you sing things twice, or when you say things twice, you never say them in the same way. When you repeat things, servite Domino, servite Domino. You make it a bit stronger, it's a climax. In laetitia, in laetitia. So I would like to hear that movement. Servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in laetitia. The angels sing this laetitia much better, but you sing in laetitia. In laetitia, in laetitia. And then the beginning. Jubilate omnis terra. Jubilate omnis terra. You hear that as a kind of wake-up call. Jubilate omnis terra, servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in laetitia. And you can hear the bells ring because it is Domi, sola, dola, sola, dola, sola, dola, 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 sol. So sing it with the bells ringing in your ears. This is rejoice. Jubilate omnis terra, servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in once more, jubilate omnis terra, servite Domino, servite Domino, in laetitia, in laetitia. This is great. You hear the difference? Maybe just one or two elements that are still in the music that I do not hear. The final details. Servite, serve, that is low work. Servite, servite, realize that there you are really on the earth. Domino, it's a name you have to love, you have to pronounce with a bit more emotion than domino. It is domino. So let's try. Servite domino, servite domino, in letizia, jubilate omnis terra, servite domino, servite domino, in letizia, in letizia. Well, I'm also very grateful to be here today, this week, very honored as the European Gentile, you could say. And I can tell you the European reality is of course similar to yours. The issues in our world are also building up communities, new communities, finding a good relationship between Oblate communities and monastic communities, communication, organization, empowering new realities, empowering weak realities, and formation. And of this long list, I can tell you formation is probably the nicest, because it's about creativity, it's about community. So I received today the nicest task in this week, probably, to reflect on a joyful activity. Something that requires our resources, but that also builds up something that is a work of joy. The questions the organizers asked me were basically two. What is important and why is it important? And I thought, well, I would like to add two more questions to it. What is sustainable? What can we do? What can we continue to do? And also, what is empowering? What is helping us in our new realities? And, well, as you write your text, in the end, the what is important and the why is it important is in the second part of my contribution of today. And in the beginning, I am especially reflecting on the how, on some preliminary remarks, on the setting, on what works, what doesn't work, how do we experience certain things. And I'm not just speaking with you, you received a handout with a number of questions, 5 questions, and we will take in the middle of my talk sometimes 5 minutes to look at those questions for ourselves, or if time allows it, to do it with some of our neighbors. So that's the way I would like to approach this question, this difficult question of formation. It's about promises, it's about needs, it's about competencies, it's about empowerment, and it's about the long term. I would like to start with a personal memory. My memory of the best Benedictine formation experience ever. You have to imagine, I was Oblate, we as Oblate group in the monastery were invited at the moment by our prior, and he said, well, our community is going a week to have a retreat together with another community, and we will have to leave our monastery for a week. It was in a process of bringing communities together. And 1 year they were coming to us, and 1 week the entire community went away, apart from 2 90-year-old brothers. And he asked us, may I ask the Oblate community to take over our house for a week, and to take care of the elder brothers, and to do everything as we do it, or do it in your own way, but in an ongoing way. And we did it. It was August 2007. Those who had to work, like me, went to work, so we stayed in the monastery. We did morning prayer. I was assigned the ringing of the bells, for example, which is a difficult thing. We were cooking, we were eating together, we had lectio, we had sharing, we had evening prayers, we were receiving the guests. When time allowed it, we were doing some household things or some things in the garden. And I can tell you, for our community and also for the elder brothers, it was an unforgettable week. And remembering it, it was not intended to be a formation week, but it was very formative for various reasons. Not only for the time we stayed there and the silence and the prayer and the music, but also because it allowed us to do monastic things in our own way, in an authentic way. We discovered new dimensions of monastic life. We were building up our community. We received responsibility. And it was a great example of empowerment. Just do it. And for all of us, and I think we were 10 or 12 during that week, the numbers changed a bit, not everybody could stay over the whole week. That was an unforgettable experience, really giving us something that enriched us for a very long time. I would like to invite you to the first question. Try to remember for yourself, consider an example of a formation experience, or maybe it wasn't a formation experience, but you experienced it as a formation experience that you particularly liked. That's question 1 on your sheet. And why did you like it? What were its strengths and what were its effects? Let's take a few minutes to reflect on that best formative experience ever. Okay, thank you for considering this memory, this experience, and for analyzing it a moment. Of course, the everyday reality is a bit different, not always as easy, not always as rewarding, and a bit more routine. That's inevitable for several reasons. I will share a bit how we do it in Clairlande, in Belgium, the monastery where I'm Oblate. We are just a small group, about 15-20 Oblates, and we gather in a small room. So when we are all there, we are packed up a bit, but that is also creating very good community atmosphere. We do it as most groups 3 Saturdays or 3 weekends per year. That is more or less what we can ask people. We started with 3 weekends, and then during the years the weekends became heavy for people with children, for people working in the weekends, for grandparents, and so at the moment it is 3 Saturdays. And we have one special thing, we have an excursion. We organize every May of June an excursion to another Oblate group, another monastery, since many years. And it's always a very enriching experience for our group. We see a different reality, We are there in a different way. We are not sitting just in a room or packed up in a small room or having our routine. No, it opens up the group. There's a different interaction between the members and different kinds of discussions. And yeah, we are of course lucky to have in 1.5 hour distance many places to go to. But even after 10-12 years we visited the most important places. So we have to rethink a bit how to organize the excursion. And then there is another fixed element. We are invited to take part in the community retreat in August, which is a week, which not everybody can afford, but it is part of our Oblate program. It's part of our program together with the community. And that's more or less what we can offer as a program to our Oblates. And there is one thing I regret, and I experience a bit as a difficulty, that all meetings we have are also formative meetings. There are no other meetings than meetings where formation is an element. And the program is always, as Camille said yesterday, there is not enough time to do everything you would like to do. So we schedule the day with formative moments, informal moments, announcements, then there's the liturgy, there's the meal with the community, and that's always a bit difficult. And we have as we are a small group, no distinction between initial and ongoing formation. The candidates have individual talks and they do their readings, they have individual meetings, but they take part in the group meetings as well. So that's, of course, that's a limitation for what you can do, both for the ongoing formation and for the initial formation. But that was the way we started. And we struggle with a number of elements, as you can imagine. The group is a bit older already. We already know a lot. Our Oblate group exists since about 30 years, so keep it going. The leadership, we used to have a combined leadership, shared leadership of a monk and of Oblates, and since 5 years we have just an Oblate leadership. We don't use the word director, we use the word coordinator, and we do it with the three of us, so it is a shared leadership. We call ourselves the trio de liaison, the trio for connecting to others. A very light term, but it is a leadership, and we have to reflect on many things and to communicate with the community, and the leadership has to be a bit empowered as well, in my experience. Questions that come up in our normal year program are, for example, is there place for individual supervision? I proposed this, but there was a very strong rejection from the community. This was a thing we left after us, after the 50s and the 60s. This kind of spiritual guidance that was before the council. We don't want it, and we don't think it would benefit our Oblates. That was the first reaction, but maybe there will be more opportunities to introduce it, because we need it. We need more intimate relationships, or guardian angels to Oblates together, mentorship, but we need something for the individual, more personal, ongoing reflection, sharing. Another question, not easy, is can we open our meetings for guests? That question comes very often. There are a number of Oblates in the group very strong against this. No, this is the Oblate meeting, no others. Whereas it could be a way to invite others to share our charisma, to benefit, and also to send a fresh breath, as Janice called it this morning, fresh blood, we say in Dutch. Innovation, renewal, but the long-term perspective is not easy. We sometimes think about, because we are an older group, why not working together with other Oblate groups? But of course that has its own complications. You have your own way of doing things. People are very attached to the place and to the routine. So these are questions we are experiencing at this moment, and I think you will recognize them. There are questions of all Oblate groups going on for many years. So there is a paradox. On the one hand, we have high expectations, or maybe you can say very high expectations regarding the Oblate movement, but we are rather limited in giving shape to Oblate formation programs, structurally limited in time, in space, in human means, in leadership, in the will from Oblates themselves and the mixed group. Different needs. And listening in Rome to a talk of a Korean Oblate, those that were there were very impressed. She was saying, no, we have an initial negotiate of 7 years, monthly meetings, and if you miss one, you cannot become an Oblate. And then ongoing formation every month, every Saturday, first Saturday of the month we gather, and then you remain for the Sunday and we celebrate together. That is the Korean reality. And evidently it works. It is the more military approach that is also present in the rule of St. Benedict, the Miles Christi. But in Europe and in America, that is a bit over-asking our people and over-asking our means. So the question rises, what is sustainable? And on the short term, it is not too difficult to realize an attractive program for your Oblates. On the long term, however, and this is true for all places, I think, it becomes more and more difficult. It's not easy to consciously design a long-term formation program. And I would almost say maybe this is an advantage as well. Because it makes us aware of the fact that formation is never for granted. It is not a self-evident thing. And when there is not the easy routine, you have to ask the more important questions. And one of the questions is, who is in charge? Janice this morning said very easily, and I saw people writing it down, it is the responsibility of the monastery to provide formation. I'm not so sure that that is true. I agree, but you could also say it's the responsibility of the Oblates themselves, or of the Oblate group to work on formation. Or if a monastery is old and weak, isn't it the responsibility of the entire Benedictine family to think about forms of cooperation? And because most monasteries are not able to do everything that is needed on their own for a formation program. So these questions are important questions, and fortunately we have to ask them. If everything would go on in a blessed routine, there would be nothing to invent, and we would not be challenged in our creativity and in the important questions. And then another, side note. The fact that most formation programs take place inside the monastery, and often in the setting of a retreat, that may create a bias. The religious give and the Oblates receive. And it risks to make Oblates dedicated students, or pious consumers, or the happy few that can benefit from such a setting. And I think that is the wrong approach. That's an approach we should dislearn. Of course we have to work in a monastery, of course we have to work with teachers, of people sharing, but it should not be too much a school setting. And I remember, you can hardly see it. This is the setting, Clairlande, you see them, we have similar ceilings. Somebody is speaking there, the group is there, and there's one person staying in the open door. That is the Oblate we have to bear in mind. Just standing there, taking part, not taking part. So you have to involve everybody and reflect on ways to do that. And a few days ago, somebody's hammer, that was a bit a joke. Be aware when you become an Oblate, you have to start school again. It is hard working. That's inevitable. And then when we need another conference, we will ask a professor in another abbey to come and to give us a talk on a saint or on an aspect of the rule. That's very often the approach. And the question is, of course, how much can we expect oblates to study and to work? I have no clear answers. It is a question of labora, but we are very different persons and we cannot study in the same way. How much can we ask them to study individually? What if they receive their training elsewhere? Many of us do training elsewhere or in another way. We do not depend only on what a monastery or an Oblate formation program offers, fortunately. And for all those reasons, I think a kind of coaching on the formation is essential, to integrate all those different elements and to value the tailor-made approaches. Every formation program is different for every person because the needs are different, the backgrounds are different, and we cannot make a standard program. So I think this word school that is present in the rule, in the prologue, 45, Dominici Schola Servitii, it is a school in the service of the Lord. Let us especially stress those elements, the service of the Lord. We have just done the song about that. It is not very much a school. And the question is, of course, how many Oblate programs risk to become unsuccessful or irrelevant on the long term, or unattractive or inefficient simply. We do a lot, but are we doing the right things? And there are many pitfalls in programs, and many of these pitfalls depend on the school setting, on the retreat setting, on the priest attitudes we imitate in a kind of 16th, 17th or 19th century approach of learning. It can be too intellectual, we focus too much on the cognitive side. It can be too much book-based, insufficient relation to Oblate's everyday reality, top-down approach, no variation in the formula or in the persons giving the formation. It addresses too big themes, or it is not related enough to Benedictine spirituality or to Christian everyday life. It has no inner coherence, no continuity. It does not give a clear follow-up, or it results in unworkable long to-do lists. Now, this is a bit depressive, seeing this, but do you recognize these risks? It's not too difficult to put such a slide together with pitfalls. And this is not just based on our own monastery, I see it everywhere in many formation programs. It requires patience of Oblates, it requires intercultural understanding, and we always have to be very flexible and make the best also of things that maybe are not really the best for us, and benefit from it maybe indirectly, but this is a reality. Now, maybe the question we can take a few minutes for ourselves. Which are the obstacles we experience in Oblate formation, in our own formation program? What are the main weaknesses in our setting? That's question 2 on the handout. I mean the two. You can think so initial and ongoing formation. Take 5 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes are not enough, but it is a beginning of listing for yourself points you are unhappy about, uneasy about, concerned about. Now, I see that most of you are already done with your first impressions or first reflections. So let's go on. Seeing some of the problems, of course there are many things going well, but we're also struggling with, well, giving it a shape. It's not so surprising that many oblates seem to value more the feeling of community or the strengthening of a sense of belonging during formation meetings than the formation itself. They come, they show up, they are there, they participate, but if you ask where they really come from, it is more for being there, for being together, and they want more time for informal sharing or less the real program issues. It is a bit ungrateful for those who prepared the program, but it is a reality, and it is also, yeah, you can also understand it. Maybe it makes us reflect on the question, where should the formation happen? Of course, you have a kind of blended approach. It should happen on the one side at home, on the other side in the community or in an Oblate group. But you need both. And do we value enough what Oblates do at home? That's a question. I'm not sure, because how often do you have the time to just have a talk about a book they were reading or about a conference they went to, all those things that were important. Can we integrate that? You should need a portfolio probably, or something in which you share these things. And another question, do we value enough what Oblates already have done? I sometimes have the impression that we offer formation as if we are offering first-year students a program, whereas many of the Oblates around have a background, a professional background, a background in the church, a long story of faith in the family and everywhere. And yeah, how can we integrate that in the right way in the formation programs that you are planning? They are not tabula rasa, no, they are rich human people with very important experiences. And we should, and they have a potential. And the formation should focus on realizing that potential, rather than giving a talk here or adding a topic there on the horizon. And how can we help them to realize that potential? Well, one of my favorite approaches is create a personal corner. Not all your books, no, just the books you think that are most important for your personal thing. So this is my corner, a book on the Psalms, the Rule, another book on the Psalms, 2 free commentaries on the Rule, 2 free Bibles in their languages, the Sunday, every Sunday text, and I think that's it. You find it on your shelf, and also for this conference, looking for what I should take with me. No long time for looking for it, was there. And we stimulate Oblates or other people, create your corner. And sometimes you will add a book to it, but your corner cannot be too big, not an entire room. And this is your corner. Yeah, that's the risk. A little shelf or 2 rooms, Sister Mary. And of course there is also the online dimension. I cannot reflect too long with you on this. This is still an ongoing new process. I don't know many. This is an online platform, we call it Laura. It has the Greek name of Lavra, that was the little road in the desert, linking through all those isolated houses, little houses, cells of the monks and of the sisters. Well, there was a road, and they used this word Lavra, Laura, for their network, online network. So this is a network of oblates, of hermits, of people living alone in the city, but being linked through this network with resources, with a way to share. And it exists since 10 years. It works, maybe not perfectly. This is Belgium and the Netherlands. What I see is that the more experienced oblates and oblate directors can use better online platforms than the beginners. And you should never only rely on online forms. It can be a tool, and we are living in the world of today. We cannot do without the existence of internet. So there are ways to have oblates work at home and to communicate about it and to value that. And we should also value it in our own formation programs and in our way of meeting. But this brings me to question 3, and that is the question to assess your oblates or your oblate group on a number of specific domains. And I do not want to ask you to take too much time for the assessment. Just follow your intuition. A grade between 1 and 5. The question says, please be realistic in your grading. You could also say be a bit generous in your grading. But this is an invitation for a short table discussion. So fill in 1 minute the 10 domains, or maybe you would like to add a specific domain to this list that we can say, well, an oblate, we can expect her or him to work in this domain. Give it a grade on 1 and 5 and share in your group or on your table. We will give you 10 minutes for sharing what your feelings about how well prepared your oblates, our oblates, how prepared we are in these domains. I feel a bit sorry to interrupt your exchange. How was it, or how is it to assess your oblate groups, performance, or together with others, and to speak about it? Is it helpful? Were they difficult? Of course. That's why we have to discuss it. When you just do it for yourself alone, it is not very meaningful. It's a dialogue exercise. And were there domains you were missing that you would say, well, probably yes. Which elements would you like to add to this list?
I added involvement in church.
Involvement in church.
With witnessing Christian faith.
It was intended to be there, but certainly, presence in a church or in a parish. And what grade did you give for your oblates in that domain? Only 1?
No.
5, the full grade. Okay. And what other element? Was there another element that you missed that you would add to the list? Community service. That's something different from works of charity.
Works of charity.
Only the way I was thinking.
You're right.
And what grade did you give for the community service, for the act? Okay, without grading it.
Yeah, communication.
Communication as a competence, or as how proactive they are. How do they communicate? Do they share? It was a bit intended with living in community, sharing, but communication is an additional, a very explicit domain you can think about. Okay, now we have to go on, but remember this. This is a way of valuing. It's also a way of reflecting which domain should we then address, or how can we address weaknesses that we feel there, or how can we honor strengths that are present in our groups, also in the formation. If your group is very strong in works of charity, then it's also meaningful to do something to support that presence in that apostolate. So it's not just that you have to address the weaknesses, it also helps you to think about the strengths. Well, why is Oblate formation a priority? This why, you could say, well, that's not a very difficult question, but the answers are more surprising and maybe are deeper than we expect. Of course, I already mentioned, let us help each other to realize the potential. I think that is a basic thing we always come back on. The human potential, the potential of us living a Christian life, the potential of our humanity, and the potential of us being a member of a community. But there are a few more elements, and I do not do them much justice by just listing them, but in this week it was mentioned several times, if you see the reality of the church, and most parishes and dioceses are not able to offer any adult formation. The only formation we offer in most churches is for children, and after the age of 12 or 15 or 16 there's nothing left. And this creates, of course, a hunger and a need, and monasteries or religious communities are the places people turn to. So this is the reality of the context we have to take into account. Monasteries are able to offer a serious, ongoing Christian formation. It is also one of the motivations, sometimes implicit motivations, that many people come to an Oblate program to become, to receive formation, to be enriched. There is this need, this desire, this hunger for spirituality, for being trained, for being accompanied, and they expect monasteries to be sources for their human and spiritual growth. That's a reality. And if this is the reason why they come, then we have to address it. It has also to do with the credibility of lay religious memberships. I used the word membership, associations, of presence of lay in religious communities. The credibility of these programs very much depends on the quality of an initial formation program. The better your formation is, the better your group is, the better the spirit, the better the community, and the better the radiance, and the better you attract other people. This is everything, and that's the beginning. That's where you start investing in community building, in giving, in dialogue, and in offering formation. And it's also one of the elements that empowers a group, and as that is one of our main topics of this week. How can we strengthen groups? How can we offer them the confidence to go ahead, and the means where we have to empower them through very deliberate formation? On two of these aspects I would like to go a bit deeper. One is with a quote by Joan Chittister. This is her book Wisdom Distilled from the Daily Living the Rule of Saint Benedict that I always turn to again. And it's amazing. I don't think she was older than 40, maybe 35 when she wrote this. It's amazing how well balanced and how prophetic, and the wordings are always very precise. Spiritual life is not a matter of religious sleight of hand. It is not the doing of spiritual tricks that we are about. It is an attitude of mind we must develop. So if it is about developing attitudes, it is a long-term thing, and that is the formation, the focus of our programs, to to allow people to develop attitudes, to strengthen, to become aware of them. And then there is a kind of dialogue with tradition also. Why no checklist of prioritized virtues, and the 7 virtues, or 7 and 7, or stylized behaviors, or rigid rules to accompany spiritual development according to the rule of Benedict? She doesn't like long lists. She doesn't like programs too fixed. Good to bear that in mind. The answer is simple. Conversion is more important to the mind of Benedict than captivity to a system. And in fact, a spiritual system is often a mask for conversion, an avoidance of conversion. Conversion requires us to grow and to change. Systems too easily lock us into yesterday's virtues. So this is to bear in mind. The better, the stronger our formation programs, the more dangerous they become. And they become if we do not bear in mind that it is the conversion, the conversatio morum, which is not a finished way of living and a lifestyle that is done. No, it is a continuously reinventing, growing, developing new attitudes, more attention. This is conversion as a motor of Benedictine life, of Christian life, you could say, is so strong, and that's why we need formation, ongoing formation. If we stop with our formation, individual or group-wise, we stop, or we risk to stop, to work on our own conversion. That's the second priority is from a very important document of the Church, Vita Consecrata, we say in Europe, Vita Consecrate. A very visionary document on religious life. I think we do not read it enough, personally. It was a very good text from the 80s, early 90s. They address all religious communities, not just Oblates. This is about the wider religious settings. And they say this about formation. For all religious communities, active as well as contemplative, continued formation is intrinsically connected with religious commitment. I made it red. It is connected with religious commitment. Thus, formation is not restricted to the first phase of religious life, but because we all have to reckon with human limitations, we will never be able to fully realize that new human who, under all circumstances, fully lives according to the Spirit of Christ. Therefore, the initial formation should be followed by a closely related ongoing formation, which promotes the idea that everybody can be formed anew. Everybody can be formed anew each day of their lives. This means it is of the utmost importance that religious communities put a great deal of effort into their ongoing formation. So too must they set down in a formation program a systematic description of what they provide in terms of ongoing formation. This is an authoritative church document, and it is an invitation that we do not follow enough, I think. And the commitment of religious life is a commitment to continued formation for all of us. Now, I think the Benedictines will understand this better than many other orders, but it realize how prophetic this is and how demanding. So, why is Oblate formation a priority? I just go back a moment to that earlier slide. The answers are deeper and more demanding and more complex than we might realize. It is not just by staffing a nice program for keeping a group together or offering them something they are coming for. No, it is about the credibility. It is about, well, doing something that is not present enough in the church. Today, it is about allowing people to develop, to convert, to continue on their Christian way and to empower them.
May I ask kind of a challenging question?
So I just had an aha moment looking at Charles's slide here, number 4. One of the effects of formation is to offer empowerment. Is there a possibility that formation is de-emphasized, or we struggle with it, not just in our oblate groups, but in our parishes, elsewhere, because it empowers people?
Thank you for the question. It's certainly a thing to think about.
Yeah.
And this makes you also think about what happens if we really empower the people around us and in our communities. What will happen? Who knows? The question of the what. I don't know whether you expected from me a kind of list or a kind of handbook or a kind of complete catalogue of what I suggest you to do. I thought, of course, about that, and I declined for several reasons. There is, how you see the picture, there are handbooks. And the folder, I made a picture of it, of a community present here today. I'm looking a moment around. What is of course important that every community makes her own program. A standard program is not very meaningful. We have to develop it together as a community, and then it becomes something meaningful, and it will address some of the domains we have been speaking about. It will certainly help if you structure it around keywords. That is the way we usually work. Keywords per day, bucks, feet, better. The attitudes, warning, if you do things 7 years, then you arrive at a point of full. Think about the long term. This is homework. There's no reflection test to do 5 minutes. And of course, what I can offer you is, of course, a checklist. In the handout you will find my checklist. Very important questions are: is it about essential themes? Is there a relation with everyday Oblate life? Is there a potential for dialogue? And do you use it? Does it stimulate your Oblates to continue at home? Very important. It is not empowering if you speak about something reading, reflecting, working on it, then it helps. Does it contribute to individual or group empowerment? These are quite obvious checklists, but it becomes more interesting. One of the checklists is the famous chapter 4, the instrumenta bonorum operum, the instrument good works. Always have to go back on, and that are a kind of keys of conversion, you could say, taken from several sources, the tools of the spiritual crafts. And he uses there the word workshop, officina. So something that's already better than school, I think, a workshop, an officina. But there are two other passages of the rule that came into mind bearing this. The first step, the very first thing you always have to bear in mind, the first step of humility is that she keeps the fear of God always before her eyes and never forgets. Timor Dei is fear of God. So if you have checklists, let us bear this priority in mind. The fear of God. The way of being aware of God's presence should always be somewhere, and if possible at the heart of, or at the center, or at the beginning, or in the opening, or in the conclusion, but should be in your formation. And when you check whether a novice truly seeks God, and whether she shows eagerness for the work of God, for obedience, for trials, also this seeking God as a priority, as a first thing. And that brings me to a question. Did the Timor Dei, the emotional awareness, the consciousness of God being present in formation, the seeking God, the drive, long for, to what extent do we address this deeper and this emotional register in Oblate formation programs? How often do we explicitly address the dimension of vocation, the desire behind it? The initial drive, the inner motivation. Looking for synonyms, and well, if you see the many synonyms: hunger, inclination, love, wish, yearning, longing, urge, need, passion, ambition, aspiration. There are many words that fill in this field of the inner drive, of the desire. Well, and I think we should take this level very serious in Oblate formation, also at an individual level. Take your religious longing serious. Keep your desire alive, deepen it, transform it into a life-giving, all-encompassing passion. Not easy. Easy to forget, maybe. Cultivate it, share it. That's one of the basic questions. And we risk to be a bit long. Let us take 2-3 minutes just to reflect a moment. How much do we give place to this aspect in our personal approach to formation? And then I will round off with the final 10 minutes of this opening up to formation. Well, I would like to invite you for the final window. There's still one chapter to go. And it's of course relevant for us to see Saint Benedict's checklists, his instruments, and it's also relevant to reflect on, is there a view in the rule or in the tradition very close to the rule on personal growth, on personal development? And how can we translate that vision, that view into a work program for ourselves? That's what we very often do, reading the rule, but can we make it a bit more explicit? And when I was reflecting on this question, I was doing a management course, and they offered me a package of core competences for the leaders. And this was very handy, and I thought, why not make such a thing for Benedictines? All our mottos and all in such a competence package. Very handy. And it's also the translation work. You can give it next year. You can prepare it. And then Sister Teresa. And nicely designed. But in the writing, some of our kids or our parents practices, singing, praying, reading, listening, being silent, waiting, discerning, giving, sharing, receiving, working, ordering, building, creating, respecting, loving, forgiving, obeying, hoping, celebrating. And if you see these most frequent verbs, that gives already a picture of basic practices, basic attitudes. I left out a few. To command, to punish. And I'm sorry after today's homily to bow and to kneel. But you can add. But this is just a beginning list of verbs. Of course, there are the values that help you to judge and to measure. Simplicity, chastity, sincerity, grace, joy, love, charity, peace, mercy, solidarity, stability, community, realism, respect, poverty, freedom, humility, vulnerability, justice, wholeness, transparency. You can add another, a few more key values, and I thought, well, having the verbs around Saint Benedict, we will put the values around Saint Scholastica, just to make it complete. And of course, it's very much about relationships. Standing in a relationship with, that might be with your brother, with your sister, with your father and mother, with your leader, with your pupil, your student, with the elderly, with guests, with foreigners. Abroad, with the that's a reality. The desert, creation, the church, relation with Jesus. Add a number of saints. I didn't want to make it too specific, but it's up to you. And especially also a relationship with the tools, the songs, the rule, the gospel. So these offer three realities: relationships, practices, and values. And it could be an exercise that was initially what I planned, but I think our time is a bit running out for today, and maybe we should value them more and give them a bit more time than just 10 minutes or 15 minutes in a group, because it's a bit uneasy. It requires a new way of thinking as well. And which of these competencies are well developed or are particularly strong in your group? That means those you should address in your formation, because it is also rewarding to work on things you are strong in. Which of them are less developed? Which of them challenge you personally in a particular way? are surprising or make you curious, or I would like to work on it. And I think these core competencies, as they are distilled from the rule, can be another kind of checklist for your formation program. Are we doing what we are doing? Is that Benedictine? I just colored a few things. Our group, when we were working on relationships, the theme of hospitality, working on the rule, reading the rule together, working on our praying the Psalms together, the Gospel, doing a lectio together in order to share it, also train the way of lection. The theme of brotherhood, the theme of leadership, these themes are very popular in formation programs and very fruitful, is my experience. Looking at values, I colored a few that are very popular, very attractive. The simplicity, the wholeness, the humility, respect, creating community. But there are also activities that are really creating a group spirit. They work together on charity project or a peace project. And the same is true for some of the verbs. It helped us as a group to practice moments of silence, for example. To read together, to listen, to serve. We had a very nice day about service, and I still remember it. Singing together. This brings me to my final two slides, rounding off. Promises, needs, competencies, empowerment. Well, in a certain sense, the promise as a theme was also addressed in this theme, such as the desire and empowerment. And I took a few pictures of moments that these terms were there. I hope that in a certain sense you could say, what have we done for formation? Is not the end picture too fragmented, that we have just little elements, but it also creates us some freedom to approach formation differently, to really get rid of the too routine-like traditional school approach. And I think that's important. Just to summarize, let us try to dislearn the top-down approach. It will always remain, it will always be there, enough to give structure to things, but let us try to dislearn it for our formation programs as much as possible. Let us try to forget the too cognitive focus, as if we only need knowledge. Let us value what Oblates bring in. Let our first concern always be the development of attitudes, values and relationships and practices. Let us relate to everyday experience. Let us realize the dialogue potential as much as possible. Let us also address this emotional, creative, vocational dimension. Let us strengthen the commitment and benefits from the formation program for community building potential. And never forget to empower Oblates. They have to go on also after formation. And let the Holy Spirit work in your programs. And she will do the rest. She will make it joyful, attractive, enriching, graceful.
Thank you.